in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, and I'd also look for a motion to approve today's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Everybody's playing today, I like that, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, alright. On to the regular agenda, receive a presentation on the City of Big Lake Community Development updates. That would be my good friend Murray.
Perfect. All right, make sure we got a clicker.
Should now work, hopefully. No, nothing?
What?
Trade you for a mouse. This for sure works.
Perfect. All right, there we go. All right, so I'll do a brief update of some of the bigger things that we have happening in the city. First of all, we've some completed land sales within the last about 14 months. I'm gonna minimize this, Brian. So in our industrial park, this area is shared ownership with Big Lake Township, so kind of a unique industrial park. We sold the parcels with the green stars within the last 14 months. So we have just over 120,000 square feet going up currently. So if you haven't been through this area, Premier Marine's just to the kind of southwest of here. So it gives kind of some context where it's located. White Bear Clothing, they ship out kind of the blank clothing to those that do embroidery. So they don't have just customers like you and I. Theirs are the kind of middleman that does the embroidery, and so they have like 3,000 accounts across the country. But they were currently in our industrial park. They outgrew their building, so they purchased the new site, and they're more than doubling their space, and they have room to add on about another 20,000, which would be triple of what the space they were in. So great expansion story. They have fewer employees. They have roughly 6 to 8 employees depending on the time of year, but they're full-time all year round, so no seasonal work, anything like that.
What happened to their old building?
They sold it to the neighboring company that is also going to be planning an expansion. So they combined the parcels. They're not doing a lot of work on the site currently, but eventually they want to add some additional parking area and then combine the two buildings. So it would be quite a large build out, but they're probably 5 years out from that, I think. And then M&M Precision Machining, they are currently located in Elk River. They outgrew their facility. It was roughly 30 or so thousand square feet. I don't have the exact Elk River numbers, but their new facility that they're building is 60,000, so they wanted to come in and have double the square footage. And the site that they purchased actually allows for almost double that, so they can exponentially grow over the coming years, and we hope that they do. And then Raw Organics, that northernmost parcel, they do protein bars, so more in the food side of things. They're building just under 20,000 square feet, but that site is set up for multiple phases of expansions, and they've been growing fairly quickly, so they think that they'll have an expansion in not too many years, which is great to see. Oops, wrong way. And here's just a couple photos of the buildings going up. So these both started in fall of last year. I think actually the M&M Precision one, it was like the first cold day of the year when they finally got out to do a groundbreaking. So they've come a long way. This was just a couple weeks ago, but getting pretty close to having the full building complete, which is really nice to see. I don't have a picture of the Raw Organics one, but that one looks almost 100% complete. They're doing some stuff outside, and they should be moving in shortly. On the redevelopment side of things, this is a site that our EDA owns. It's right along the railroad. It's in a residential area, and it's a pretty big eyesore when you're driving past it and a safety hazard. So we have, there's 3 buildings on site. You can see there's a kind of a small one in the top picture with a long rectangular building. That one is actually starting to fall apart, so the roof has caved in part of it. The beams inside are deteriorating, and there's been some attempts of vandalism and whatnot at this site. It sat vacant for multiple years, so we're trying to figure out the best way to clean it up. But since it was an agricultural fertilizer distribution site, the Minnesota Department of Ag is heavily involved in how it gets cleaned up and the oversight of it. So we've been working with them for multiple months. Actually in the coming couple weeks, we think in about a month or so, they'll be issuing us, they called it a letter of no association, so it's more of like a legal, kind of who's responsible for the contamination. And so that'll be a letter saying, no, city, you did not create this, but here's how we can help clean it up. And then our hope is that past owners will come to the table. The MDA has a fund actually specifically for cleanup of these sites where it pays up to 80%. But local governments are not eligible to tap into that fund. So we need one of the past owners to come to the table to help us with it. So hopefully in the coming, I'm hoping year, the state did issue a past owner a letter inviting them to come into this voluntary program. There is a mandatory program, but the state's not there yet with it. So hopefully we can at least get the buildings down, and then we'll cap the soils and then be able to work with a past owner to get the site cleaned up. So we're talking probably $300,000 to $400,000 to clean up the soil of this site. Annexations. We have 2 that have recently been submitted. They'll be reviewed by our city council in April. First one is for a residential development. So this is on the eastern part of town. You can kind of see the curve of Highway 10 on Beacon there. The total parcel acreage is 50 acres. It runs along the Elk River, so they're calling it the shores of Elk River. Some of our, I know, planning commissioners were like, people aren't going to know where it's at. It's not Elk River, but they have not changed the name yet, so we'll see if they do. Regardless, so they're trying to market this for more of a higher end home, more of a luxury. With the river on the backside, they want some larger lots. The concept that was submitted, we know there needs to be some adjustments to, so this is not going to be the final version, just with the river and some shoreland ordinance issues that they need to resolve yet, but they seem like they're wanting to get this moving as soon as they can. So once the annexation comes in, we'll have to do a rezone. It comes in as ag and get it rezoned to the residential use. So hopefully this summer it'll be ready to go for some of the work that they're wanting to do.
What were some sizes, some of the southern lots and non-record ones that are not on the river?
Some of them kind of the south side.
Yeah.
I know it meets our minimums. I want to say it's like 75 by 100 for feet.
Okay.
Delwood Land Development, so that is the ownership of the 4 parcels highlighted. This is on the western part of town. These 3 parcels total about 115 acres. It does include kind of that wetland area and lake area on the north, so total buildable is less than that. The broker that was marketing this site has been marketing it for industrial purposes, specifically with that BNSF main line running on the north side. So I'll actually flip between 2 slides. The rail study they've utilized quite a bit, so I wanted to kind of give a shout out to some of the work that Sherburne County, the Initiative Foundation, and the 2 area cities, Becker, Big Lake, had worked on back in 2018. This has come in extremely handy recently with some of the conversations with the interested parties that are looking at this site. Again, this will be reviewed by our city council in April, so we could see possibly mid-year this year some additional zoning requests coming in on the site from the owners or interested parties that they end up selling to. So seems to be in a really good spot to hopefully have a user on it yet this year. Other big projects that the city's working on, we don't have a mock-up or anything quite yet, but the public safety facility that's planned for County Road 43 and Minnesota Avenue, this will be our city hall, the police department relocation. So where our current city hall is, that, I'll say, block area would be available for redevelopment. So the EDA owns the old school building where Pizza Factory is, and then City Hall, that's all under city ownership or city and EDA ownership. And then we recently received word that the church just to the north of us, so this would be kind of a multi-block segment, they're also going to be selling that property and open to redevelopment. So this will be a huge area right at the intersection of 25 and 10 for some hopefully very large investment in the coming years. But we know City Hall won't relocate until probably early 28. Is that fair, Ken? So a little bit of time yet for redevelopment, but trying to get some of the due diligence done. We've had Braun Intertech on site doing some of the phase 1 work and stuff like that, just to make sure we're ready to go once we are able to turn over control of the site. And then the wastewater treatment expansion, we had both House and Senate Capital Investment Committees out last year. Our mayor and city administrator, excuse me, presented multiple times down at the Capitol requesting funding for the project. And then Emmer's office and through the federal government, we did receive notice of a $2 million award that'll go through for some of the design work and help us keep moving the project forward. But we know this is a large, I think the most recent number is about $60 million project, so we're looking for assistance from the state and federal government for this. But we're not at 100% capacity yet, but when we start talking about some of these larger developments that are coming in, and possibly even on the west side with 100 and some acres, you know, of potentially industrial coming in, we want to make sure that we don't hit a point where we have to say no. We're not quite there yet, but we're not far away from it, so we want to make sure that we're able to keep going on that. Other key highlights from last year, $66 million in new valuation of the city's tax base, and a lot of that was those industrial projects that I was mentioning. We were doing some housekeeping amendments to our city code, so there was a major code update done not too long before I had started with the city, and so we're finding just some little things that need tweaking. And then we're also doing more of a, I'd say, a major update or doing a refresh of our shoreland ordinance, so that one needs to go with through the DNR. So that one we did as a standalone, so that one should actually be about ready to go May or June of this year. It should be complete, so that'll be nice to have some of the kind of more, I'd say, tedious things out of the way, so when we're doing some of these subdivisions and whatnot, it's a lot easier and cleaner for developers to understand some of the requirements that we have. Mentioned hosting of the House, Senate, and Capital Investment, and then we've had multiple residential concepts come in the last year. And even this week, we've seen a couple more, I'd say, preliminary concepts of like, hey, I'm thinking about submitting this, what do you think? Total, I want to say at one point we were almost to about 400 homes that were in conceptual phase. There was one development that the developer came back and said, oh, no, we're not moving forward with this. But then a week later, we found out here it was just because a different developer picked it up and they're doing some of the due diligence. So we're still in that roughly 300 to 400 home conceptual phase. We anticipate, at least with like the Shores of Elk River, I'm guessing that one might be one of the faster moving ones to come in yet this summer, and there's a couple other that might as well. But I'd say a lot of momentum, I'd say, on the residential, commercial, and industrial side. That was it.
All right, thank you, Marie. Any questions? All right. Looks like we get an update from the plan and zoning today.
Oh, good.
So this is this one, so we're running back and forth.
Did your planning commission really have concerns about the name of the, you should do something about that.
All right, so, you know, about once a year we come back to EDA, you know, we're kind of a regular part of the meeting, but when we do our, you know, kind of year-end summary of activity in Sherburne, you know, within Sherburne County, we usually come in and give a quick presentation. So this is kind of that presentation with a little more incorporation of the work that we do with this group. So Sherburne County Planning and Zoning, you know, we really do view the EDA as a partnership. It's been something that, you know, Dan initiated years ago, started coming to this meeting, started getting more engaged, you know, getting kind of entwined with the EDA group. You know, since we've been doing that work, it's been a really good partnership. You guys helped fund our ordinance rewrite, which was something that, you know, staff-wise, we didn't have the dedicated time to do it internally, so, you know, it was something we needed additional support. And EDA did that. And so in collaboration with EDA, some of the things that, you know, we've done through this kind of group that really have come out here is our accessory dwelling unit ordinance. That was something that kind of came to light. You know, it's about the affordability of homes, you know, giving people some more options. In Sherburne County, we have large acreage, 2.5 acres, more than enough space to provide for a secondary dwelling on the property. And so we did start pursuing that as a you know, an ordinance. We initiated it, in 2025, and we've done quite a few of them now. We amended the subdivision ordinance to try and streamline the process, and that was something that we proposed early on. We had a lot of back and forth with our county attorney's office to actually get it accomplished, but we did eventually get that accomplished. So it's a reduced timeline for going through a standard plat subdivision, so that's new roads, more than 4 lots. We were able to eliminate potentially 1 step in that, and it reduced that process for developers if everything's kind of teed up by 1 month. And so 1 month in Minnesota is critical for construction. You're talking about roads, you're talking about tree removal. That was a pretty good win there.
And I can piggyback off that. So with that month reduction, standard plat that went in Livonia, being able to streamline that, they were able to get the roads in last fall, where if we had our normal standard plat, it would have been into December, January, and they wouldn't have been able to put the roads in, so.
So that was, that's something I think there's a, direct correlation with EDA saying you guys got to find a way to improve this. We had taken efforts in the past to try and find this, internally, what can we do? We did make improvements on internal processing, but this was kind of external. It's a public hearing process for all this stuff. It's the formalities of going through the public hearings and approvals associated with that. By doing that, we really did take out, 1 step in this whole process. So I think that was that directly came out of this partnership that we had here. It was the direction we got from EDA. We were actually able to initiate it and make those improvements. And so then the other thing is working through the zoning subdivision ordinance. Some of the proposed changes, regarding minimum lot size. That was another thing that kind of really got pushed by EDA. It goes back to the affordability. We're doing, right now our ordinance requires 2.5 acres. We are looking at making a reduction in that down to 1.5 acres. We are working with our townships because there's a lot of pushback. People like kind of things to stay status quo, but status quo doesn't follow kind of the market demands. So trying to see a revision in minimum lot size, and we've got some good support for that. And then we're also looking at changes to our shoreline residential areas to allow for better development. So around our lakes and rivers, we have a lot of legal non-conforming properties, these small little lake properties, and whenever anyone's trying to make any improvements to those structures, they're not conforming to everything. And so in our shoreline residential area, we'll have an opportunity to make reductions in overall setbacks, to kind of make it a little bit easier for somebody to redevelop, not have to go through as many hoops to get that development project accomplished, and provide more flexibility in those areas. Because those areas do have a lot of high value. People that come in are looking to make those big improvements and, creating this new zoning district. So it really will be a zoning district going out 1,000 feet from all our developed lakes and other areas that have these kind of real substandard lots. And so it's a good opportunity to see redevelopment go into those areas without having to go through necessarily every, going through the Board of Adjustment, which can be its own gauntlet. And then also, strengthen our hamlets. So we have the Orrock Hamlet, we have the Palmer and San Diego Township, and these are kind of those mixed-use areas. And so we're creating our own zoning district. For years, those kind of fell under like a commercial zoning, and there was no opportunity for residential development. Well, we had heard through our comp plan that there was a high desire to see housing, and also kind of patio type homes, bringing people more into an area that has kind of an old town feel to it. So finding ways to get smaller lot sizes and increase housing developments and those opportunities to kind of cover people, end of life stuff. So people might look to relocate from one of their larger properties, but they don't want to leave their township. This gives them, an opportunity in Sherburne County to stay in a township, still stay with your, well and septic and accessory building, but it's not, you're not moving into a city area. So that's, another opportunity for further development. We do pay attention, to the strategic plan. I think this group has done a great job with kind of, the initial, update to, an update to the strategic plan like 5 years ago, really pulled zoning into a bunch of different things. And so when we're partnering with this group, we look at, the areas of focus where zoning comes in. And so, the first area of focus, and it mostly relates to housing. And so support, participate in planning and zoning ordinance update process. So zoning staff comes here, we give a monthly update, we get feedback, we get guidance from this group. So that's kind of that constant engagement there. So we're addressing that issue. And then For the steering committee, we have Rand, Ken, and Dan, who sit on that committee, who also help to kind of advocate for the things that are coming out of EDA and the ideas and concepts there. So it really has helped to have them in that group to try and streamline and improve that zoning ordinance. Then the next area of focus coming out of EDA's strategic plan, attract housing developers to increase all housing options in the county. From zoning's perspective, and I'm going to credit Mitch on this, when he came in, he basically said, we are partners with developers. We're not an adversary, we're not an obstacle. We should be partnering with them, trying to find ways to work through them. I think, with Mitch on the staff, coming from a developer background, really did help kind of create that relationship with our developers. So hopefully it's not, this adversary thing where we're just kind of putting roadblocks where we're working with them because we know that they're under timelines. Every month matters to those developers. So whatever we can do to assist that process, to help it move along, is something that we've really focused on. Mitch, I'll just talk about Windancer Estates.
Yeah, Windancer Estates is a 14-lot standard plat in Livonia Township. Like I mentioned, this is the plat that went through last year. We had gotten the streamline done. The developer was very grateful for that because, again, he was able to put the road in like November, early December, where again, if we didn't do that, he wouldn't have been able to put it in until this spring. With the road going in, he's able to put up, I think, 2 model homes right now. Feedback from the developer was, especially with the streamlining, is that he didn't realize the easiest part of this plat was going through planning and zoning. So he's like, I never thought the easiest part would be going through your office. So
You have that, like, recording or something.
As you're watching out County Board.
You can take his word for it, but there was a lot afterwards, after we got him to the finish line for our part, that obviously with the county, but yes.
Yeah.
But again, it's a newer developer. I mean, he's local to the area. He's a realtor, but this is, his family's been into developing, but this is him going out on his own, doing the first development. He wants to do an additional expansion to it to the west. Right now, they're waiting to see how the sales go. These are $700,000 houses, so they're not, contributing to the affordability of the housing, but maybe with some ADUs on this, they can contribute to it. But
They are, because if people move from their existing home and have move up, then that frees up the lower tiers, so.
Yep. Yeah, so this was a great project, and again, it's up and running right now. We've probably got 2 going on 3 houses. 2 builders are 2 local builders are the ones doing it, so.
And this is in Livonia Township, less than a mile off of 169, on the east side of 169. So again, with the improvements to the corridor, this is really, a great opportunity for someone to come out of the metro area to get their rural property, and still have quick, close access to the metropolitan area. Another one that we did, so this is kind of all focusing on, new developers in this concept of trying to partner with developers. Creekside Wood was a simple plat, but it's up in San Diego Township, and this developer had done the mini storage development on Highway 169 just north of the landfill. It was recently sold to Acorn Mini Storage, and he had been looking for opportunities to come back into Sherburne County. He wanted to reinvest after he made the sale of that property. He was looking for opportunities to invest. So he's gives me a quick phone call. Hey, Mark, what do you think about this property? And we'll do that kind of conversation. And he found a property. It was a 70-acre property, mostly floodplain, with the St. Francis River running through it. Found a way to create 3 new lots out there. And so that's one of those projects where it's definitely a rural location, but one of the lots is, has a purchase agreement, needs to be signed in the Mylars. We're signing them today. So that's another example of someone that worked in Sherburne County, maybe on a different project, but then looked to reinvest in Sherburne County. And there's been obstacles whenever you do these plats in these kind of older agricultural areas. There's all sorts of weirdness that goes along with it. People encroach with people's driveways where they've been farming in area, so chicken coops, lots of different things that you have to kind of work through. But we were able to work through all that stuff, and he was a really good partner as far as developing. He was a pro. When I needed something done, he did it immediately.
Well, this was one where he had a surveyor from Alexandria that didn't really understand our ordinances. So we had a nice long meeting with the developer and the surveyor. When we initially got the plat in, it didn't have anything that we needed as far as our subdivision ordinance. But we had a nice meeting with them, gave them a lot of examples of work that has been done in the county, and then the second, drawings that were presented met everything, so.
So it's getting back to those new people coming into Sherburne County and having qualified staff and capable staff to work with them, to help coach them through this process. So in the past few months, we've had 3 new potential standard plat applications come through, preliminary plans, but looking at large tracts of land, and they're all new developers to Sherburne County. So, you know, when they call, I'll start the conversation. Mitch is much better at platting than I am, working through that stuff, but we'll get on the phone with them and we'll walk through that stuff and try to tee them up as close as possible for these developments. And one thing I inserted this slide. We do this sometimes with our townships, but I just want to make sure, you know, kind of what, you see Mitch and I a lot, but this is kind of how our department is broken up. So we have our building, environmental, office administration, solid waste, which is a substantial part of our department, and then zoning. Lynn Matashek, many of you know her, long-term zoning administrator, and then the other supervisors are kind of there. One thing that's kind of unique about our office, everything's done internally. We don't really outsource stuff. We don't have outside consultants doing this work. We have professionals. So when they call us, they talk to a person who's been doing this work for a substantial amount of time. And I think there's a benefit there to the residents and businesses when they contact our office. They're working directly with the inspector who's going to review the permit, inspect the permit, and kind of go through that entire process.
Historical records we have on file.
Historical records and past experience too, and just knowledge of the area. We have a real long tenure of employees at our office.
I just want to add more. To see Jamie Beltran on there. We actually share her with zoning. We used to have 2 full-time employees, one in zoning, one in admin. We had some staffing changes. We combined that into one position. So when we talk about partnerships between the 2 offices, we're saving resources too, not just projects.
And that's working well.
It is, yeah. If you get the right person and we have the right person, she's phenomenal.
Yeah, she's very good.
Yeah, and Sherburne County does a very good job retaining employees. You know, once people get here, if they're the right fit for the job, and that you're coming up on 10 years pretty quick here, and had not been in government before. He was more on the developer side, and it's worked out well. So we're able to retain people and kind of provide that kind of consistency for the public.
To piggyback one more on the staff slide, we've worked really closely with Jillian because she basically runs or is the point person for the septic loan program. So when everyone goes through our homeowner rehab loan program, the conversation of their septic compliance comes up, and so we're able to piggyback with Jillian, and people are able to have a conversation both with us and Jillian. So another form of that partnership. That's working really.
We, maybe 8 years ago, there was this real silo effect occurring in Sherburne County where we weren't always crossing over even interdepartmentally. That has really kind of, has gone away. There's so much interconnection. I do credit Dan for kind of constantly saying, hey, Mark, come to the EDA, and that was early on, and that really did. I had an interest in it, but it was getting the support for the overall office to come do that, and I think we've seen some really good things come out of it.
Well, even with our subdivision ordinance update, we are bringing in the county surveyor's office because they're the experts.
Yep.
And they're like, really? You want to work with us? I'm like, well, yeah.
So that concept of partnership is real, and we're actively working on it all the time. Some call outs. So this presentation has kind of like a breakdown of all our yearly activity, but these are just some of the things that I want to call out. So we take about 30,000 calls a year. We've entered an agreement with Bolton Mick that's we use funds from EDA to help support our ordinance rewrite and keeping very engaged with them. We're getting close, so we're looking at probably a May public hearing for our ordinance and subdivision, or zoning and subdivision ordinance rewrite, and then adoption in June. It's kind of what our projected timeline is on that. The ADUs, we saw 8 new ADUs, and they're all for family members living on the same property. And the amount of appreciation and gratitude the public provides to us, how much they say it's, is complete life-changing factor for them to have, their parents who might be snowbirds, or whatever else that could stay at the homestead, help out with the kids. It's a quality of life issue. We did provide an improvement to quality of life to people by making that an option and opportunity. And with our lot sizes, we don't see issues. So, there was concerns that, people are just gonna come around and do these for rental purposes and we're gonna have conflict or whatever else. That's not what we're seeing. people are making these investments in their property. They're making the investments for their children, for their parents, and to keep up kind of that nuclear family close. So we're down a little bit on our overall building permit, 64. And the thing that's interesting about, I had a conversation with my building official about our permit volume. And our permit volume is actually really low right now. And there's another, kind of highlight there, or low light if you want to say it. We're down 59% in our building permits last year. That's substantial. And our new homes were down just a couple.
Part of that is storm damage. You had
Some of it,
to
there's always storm damage, and those can really skew our numbers.
quiet weather year last year.
Yep, and so, some of that, but we're not seeing a ton of permits come in right now. The homes that we're seeing built, Mitch kind of alluded to, are $600,000 to $700,000. So the homes that are, on that upper end, and I don't know if there's just a, lack of market for that, but that is kind of what's happening. So they're not, we're not seeing a real high increase in homes, but it's because our housing opportunities for people are in that higher price range. We don't have a lot of opportunities at that, $300,000 to $400,000 in Sherburne County, but that's part of the thing that we're talking about, trying to see a reduction in lot size. Reduction in lot size would open up that opportunity. And we have great examples of subdivisions in Sherburne County that are done on 1 acre.
But we're just, these numbers though, I mean, on Briggs Lake, there's 2 houses for sale right now that are $1 million. I never would have seen $1 million houses on Briggs chain, so, I mean, Orac Township, $700,000 houses, Livonia, these are numbers that I never would have imagined we'd be seeing, so.
Yeah.
Interesting that the permits are down in the township, but when we look at, like you just mentioned, some pretty significant developments that are going in Big Lake. I think there's 1,000 homes planted in Elk River. So
Becker had that.
So
presentation last week.
you're seeing permits down on the townships, but there's a lot of activity going on in the cities.
And so it's, and that's the other thing when we talk about the partnership. We look at ourselves as yes, we're the rural communities who take care of the townships, but the county as a whole, so I think we fit our niche, with the larger homes, but there are some opportunities to see that kind of smaller lot sizes that might make it a little bit more affordable.
And what we've always mentioned is that our developers in the townships are local developers. Cities have national or bigger, so we're just waiting for our local developers to pull the trigger to put more lots.
For $1 million home.
Absolutely. And then, we have 12 new commercial buildings. Those are mini storage, solar farm, renewable energy gas plant at the Elk River landfill. And our first cannabis cultivator. Cannabis is not a fun subject. That is just
Not anymore.
No, it's very difficult to navigate the state rules. So we have permitted one, but they're actually not even operating. So we got through all our zoning stuff, had the IEP issued in early 2025. They did their building permits, got all their approvals, and they're still waiting on state to sign off on everything. So cannabis is a very challenging industry. That 17 new lots in Livonia Township is kind of the direction we want to go. We haven't seen a lot of development in Livonia Township in recent years. So that new subdivision with those 14 lots that we talked about is going in the right direction. And then, our solid waste program is a substantial, that's probably the biggest part of our department, has grown. We do a mattress recycling event, and this is kind of providing services for the public. 1,000 mattresses were recycled free of charge. We partner with Monco on that effort, and it's a really good program. Every time we go out and talk to any of our townships, they just love that fact that, trying to avoid a mattress at the end, at a stub road edge, where the mattress is laying there. So it gives that opportunity. We have our SSTS low income grant. The loan, we've given out $500,000. The grant, last year we did $50,000. One kind of frustrating thing with the grant, we received $50,000 in 2025. This year they cut it in half. So that really means we can give out $5,000, to 5 people. So unfortunately, the state pulled back money from that, but that's a very successful program. It really gives people that opportunity to offset the expense of a $30,000 septic system with a grant and then our loan. That's been a a highlight of our office, being able to help kind of protect those natural resources in the groundwater. And then we kicked off an organic recycling program, again, partnering with Bonco on that type of effort. So we have these green buckets, and you can have your organics. So you come pick up your buckets at Sherburne County, and there's multiple locations where you can drop off your organic waste. And this really comes down to landfill abatement, trying to reduce what is going into our landfills and finding alternative sources for that. And then the rest of the slides, I'm just going to kind of run through really quick. 31 new platted lots in 2025. So 8 recorded subdivisions. And so, again, not huge numbers, but it's still moving forward, and we do have people coming around exploring Sherburne County for development. But I do think that's a good point about if we get 1,000 new, roofs in Elk River, that's going to potentially impact development in the rural areas because there's more opportunity there. So it's not a negative thing, it's just in our office, our numbers go down, and we are a zero levy office, so we really do generate our fees, basically cover our expenses. And so when we see these dips in our building permits, it really puts a lot of pressure on our office and requires us to start getting pretty creative about budget items. So residential recorded plats, for a period of time, Baldwin was really booming. I think the price of land up in Baldwin Township must have just been the right market. So we had a lot of development going on, and much of it was happening in Baldwin Township. I'm not sure what they're doing right now as a city of Baldwin, but for a period of time, a lot of our development is really happening up in Baldwin Township. But we're consistent. We are seeing, lots being created in a handful of subdivisions. And this is kind of the breakdown of where they're occurring. Livonia Township, 1 standard and 2 simple plats. So, this is one area where we do really, when we get someone who's interested in developing Sherburne County, we're going to spend time with that person. We're going to try and work with them to try and find the best option for them to, find an opportunity to develop lots so we can get those in Sherburne County. And we do spend a fair amount of time. That's one of those things where, we might not get money. There may be no application that comes forward, but we do explore it as far as we can with these people to try and give them a clear path forward. There's our new home construction. Again, 2021, we still had Baldwin under our umbrella. That's where the numbers really dropped off. Baldwin Township, we estimated, was about 20% of our, volume through our office. So when they incorporated in a city, we saw that reduction. There's those spikes about, weather. Weather comes in, and my building department can get extremely busy. So processing 4,000 permits, due to this massive hailstorm that came through Sherburne County in 2022, made our, our inspectors were, just running nonstop. And those aren't high value permits, but it's a pretty high workload. And then we did have, another hailstorm that kind of trickled through. That hailstorm from 2022 kind of carried over in 2023. Then 2024, we had another hailstorm. And so our permit volume probably is reasonably consistent with past activities, but it is a drop in our revenue for our department. Commercial building permits were up last year. A lot of this was mini storage. That just seems to be the the need that our land provides. So we don't have a lot of nice new buildings that are going up. These nice concrete tip ups with all these new employees. We have the other other type of development, which is again practical for Sherburne County as a whole. Septic permits kind of stay consistent. These really do come up as properties get transferred. Properties that were built in the 2000s, most of the septic systems are hitting their maximum life. You get about 25 years out of a septic system, somewhere in that ballpark. So when those homes are getting sold that were developed in the 2000s, we had major booms in housing development. We're seeing a lot of those having to be replaced at this point. So there's our loan information and grant. This has been really a good resource. Our septic designers love this program because they know they're going to get paid. They know how this is going to work out. They're not, they go do the design. Jillian in our office works with them to, get them paid right away. And they, so the contractors really do enjoy and benefit from this program. There's those grants. I really do hope the state of Minnesota finds a way to allocate some more money towards the septic grant area, because in Sherburne County, we're dealing with water contamination issues, groundwater contamination issues, and that program allowed for the installation of septics for people that just didn't have the income to cover it. And so now that we're limited to, basically we'll give out 5 grants this year versus, we had some pretty high numbers in the past for that program, so. We still do a handful of CUPs and IEPs. We had 15 last year, and most of these are your small businesses. Someone has an idea how, they can make something work from their property, whether it's a, small boutique, cannabis business, or whatever else. Wine bar.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Mitch and I were talking on the way up here, like, yeah, people got some wild ideas. People have some wild ideas what they want to do with their property, and with our CP and IEP process, it gives them a chance to try it. It gives them an opportunity to kind of explore it, and, the hope is, eventually have success with that business, and maybe then they will be able to grow on and move to another location. But this is truly where a lot of, late night business ideas, like I could do this at my property. I think I could take this business, my little machine shop, I'm getting close to retirement, I think I can make, a run at this at my residential property. And we've had good success with that. There's, the rare exception where, we have problems. I'd say about 98% of our CPs and IEPs, we never have issues with. That it provides a service to residents in the area. It's not taken away from other commercial activities in our cities. It's small, it's local, and it works really well. And then you get that, 2% that exhaust a lot of time, so. Solar farms, we have a lot of small solar farms, and with the reduction in subsidies, we expected that there was gonna be a decrease. There is a little bit of a rush. We will have more solar farms, these 1 megawatt to 5 megawatt solar farms coming into Sherburne County. One of the challenges is, they're starting to move further away from the XL kind of corridor along County Road 8 and Highway 10, where we saw tons of that development. There were farm fields being converted. Now we're seeing more rural areas being converted to energy production because the improved power lines that are coming through Sherburne County, so they are starting to spread out a little bit more, and the public's not, public has pushed back on those too. So that's what we have.
All right, well, thank you for that very thorough presentation. Any questions?
Just one comment. You're working on the shoreline ordinance. If you haven't yet, it'd probably be worth having a meeting with Dan from Soil and Water, just so that you're aware what the watershed has available for projects on shoreline preservation. Not that it would necessarily have an impact on how you do the zoning, but when you're talking to homeowners, talking about redeveloping their land, it would be helpful for your department to also know what is available through the watershed district.
Yeah.
That would be a good connection.
We're doing that presentation.
Yeah, so one thing that we really did stress, and this comes out of our comp plan work, is really trying to strengthen our programs that oversee our natural resources, so wetland, shoreline, things like that. We have a great new staff member, Kaylee Beck. She's a new employee who that's her program. She's overseeing a lot of that. She took an initiative, and this is back to partnerships. She took the initiative. She wanted to do a training. Some of you may have seen Save the Date kind of thing for this. So it's partnering with Minnesota DNR and SWCD and going through kind of everything associated with shoreline development and redevelopment. And we are hitting that because the county is part of, with the new comprehensive watershed plan that was done for the Mississippi River, there's opportunities for funding there for our residents and for water quality improvement efforts. So, but I definitely should float over the ordinance so when we changed that ordinance, we wanted to make it easier for redevelopment of properties, but we also wanted to make sure we're catching some of those environmental protections, so we have some of that language in there. But that's a good point to ask Dan to expand on that, because we kind of did it internally, but that's a good point.
And to your point, though, there is dollars available to homeowners to be able. Now there's matching funds required, but there is dollars available to homeowners to be able to shore up their shoreline.
Yeah, the comprehensive watershed plan was a big deal, and a lot of money coming out of Bowser for and we're trying to capture as much as that we can in Sherburne County, because I think there's 19 different jurisdictions that are part of that group. So anything we can get out of there, it's a win for the county.
Any other questions or comments for planning and zoning? So if you approve a bar for me at my house. I can only, not only write off my expenses, but all my liquor.
All your drinking, yes.
All right, I'll be in shortly.
The recovery stuff for the.
All right, well, thank you guys. All right, I think we're back to Brian now on a kind of an exciting, program if we can get it kicked off.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as we look at our strategic plan and supporting current businesses, we do a lot for entrepreneurship and small businesses, whether it's the IoT Academy or working with the SBDC or our own business lab. We don't really have any programming for businesses that are bigger and more established. So like, there's different stages of businesses. So we're looking at stage 2 businesses, and these businesses, revenue over $1 million, but less than 10 million, and less than 99 employees. So these are businesses that are doing quite well. And in Sherburne County, we have about 110 businesses that fall into that stage 2 category. We don't have a lot of programming to help them. And so that's one area we've been looking at. What are some different programs out there that are designed for these stage 2 businesses to be supported? And actually at the EDM conference and a little bit before, I got to meet with Art Shore, who founded MB Mentors. So MB Mentors, and I put all this marketing material in the packet, so I won't harp on it too much, but MB Mentors actually spun out from SCORE, so the Federal Business Consulting Program, because MB Mentors wanted to have a more direct line with these stage 2 businesses that are established. And so they created these CEO roundtables with the Edward Lowe Foundation that are specifically designed to bring together CEOs, the C-suite of these stage 2 businesses in a roundtable with non-competing businesses in the area to discuss the problems that are unique to stage 2. Like I said, we have a lot for entrepreneurship and startups, but this is kind of an empty area for us. So we're looking to partially fund and help launch one of these CEO roundtables for this region. And in talking with our other county partners around us, Anoka County, so Anoka County Regional Economic Development and Wright County Economic Development Partnership are also very interested in this program. So we're looking at doing a 3-county CEO roundtable where then the CEOs meet somewhere like Elk River, Otsego, because looking at the map, most of our stage 2 businesses are along the transportation corridors. So Otsego, Elk River, that's less than 30-minute drive for most of the businesses in the 3 counties. And if we split with the other 2 counties, our cost for helping out with this program, if we take on half the cost that the businesses would need to cover for this, it would be $4,400 for us to reserve 3 spots for 3 businesses as part of a 12-seat table. So each county, 4 seats. So each county gets 4 seats at this 12 CEO roundtable. And the businesses still have to put some skin in the game for this, so they would still be needing to come up with $600 to participate, so it offsets the cost for them, but we still want them to participate. These CEO roundtables, it starts at a 1-year program, so they go through this full 1 year. And part of the cost is MB Mentors actually works with us to help recruit and reach out to the businesses. So it's not just Dan and I trying to reach out to all 110. They actually help with that process. And then after a year, generally, the counties that have done this type of program kind of step back, and the businesses that want to continue in the roundtable then take on the full cost, and they can continue with their roundtables. There's been a few other counties in Minnesota that have done this, as well as cities. Bloomington has a roundtable going on right now, and it's received very positive feedback. This is one of the best programs we've seen that actually helps out with the stage 2. But at this point, I'm not asking for any approval necessarily. I'm curious to see where Anoka and Wright are, but by the April board meeting, if they're also on board, looking for approval to authorize the $4,400 to help spin up this program. It would actually start in the fall of this year with, again, 4 seats from Sherburne County for our stage 2 businesses.
Do you have businesses in mind already, or have you spoken to anyone?
You know, I've tried not to reach out directly to, because I don't wanna have any favoritism or look like that. But I think that generally the businesses that are interested, through this program, they've seen a wide variety of industries. I think for us, it's probably gonna be a lot of our manufacturers, because we have a lot of manufacturing that fits well within this bracket. I'd say probably 80% of our stage twos are in manufacturing. So that's what I expect. We'll probably have interest in this.
How do we know how successful this program is?
Yeah, so I've done some reaching out to counties that have helped to implement this program, and feedback from them is that their businesses have told them that it was helpful and successful. I can get you better metrics though on actual, like how do we measure the success of this program?
Yeah, the only thing that, the only caution that I have on something like this at a stage two business, their established business, I just want to know, I'd like to know what the net effect is. You know, can they demonstrate the businesses grow, they get more, you get more employees? I mean, I would just be interested to know how they measure success.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can get that more nuanced. I think there's some in the, but it's kind of a general sense, so I'll get some of those more specifics by the April board.
Well, I think it's a demographic that's definitely underserved and very challenging. Starting a business obviously has its challenges, but there is a large amount of support out there. Scaling a business is harder, and there's fewer resources out there as, okay, I've got this running, I've got to this point, but now how do I scale? And that's where a lot of, I think our small and mid-sized companies hit a wall. And if you go with the belief that it's a lot easier to keep a business here than it is to bring a new one in, and and also looking at the success rate of an established building that's bringing in those kind of numbers, they're gonna stay. Startups still tend to fail, more fail than, so as an investment on an EDA, we have to look at our return on investment, and I think it's at least worth a serious look to come up with ways to have our established companies, give them the resources to scale to the next level, and keep them here, along with just bringing in new startups that, like I said, a lot of them fail, so.
Yeah, I think like even the example that you gave earlier of M&M Machinery, like I hate, it's awesome that they are able to grow. Like I hate for them to leave Elk River, but the fact that they stayed in Sherburne County and they're able to grow and expand and look to stay in Sherburne County, and they're moving to Big Lake, and that's amazing because they're still attracting employees, and so like helpful and successful, what does that mean for the business, and what does that mean for our county? Are they staying in our county? Are they employing more people? Are they drawing to our county because we've invested in them?
What part of our budget would we be using those?
This would be from our professional services budget, so we have about, 30,000 in there right now, but we're able to move that around a little bit, but so they would be pulling from the professional services.
We also have a state membership in one organization that I don't think we're gonna be renewing yet, so we could use that money to fund this too, so it's kind of a one-to-one wash.
How many meetings would there be?
Yep, so they meet once a month. Once they start up in the fall, they meet once a month for a year, and then once that year is done, then they decide to either disband or they can keep going under their funding. A lot of the communities that do this, the counties and the cities, will spin up a cohort, have it run for a year, and then I know, I don't know the actual statistics, but most of the programs continue with the businesses paying for it, and then the communities go back and spin up another one with another cohort and then another cohort. So that's usually what the process looks like.
What would the money be used for if there's 3 volunteers?
Yeah, so a lot of the upfront cost for this is having the MB mentors actually do most of the reaching out to the businesses. They have the materials for it. They do a lot of the research. actually find the businesses, find the best contacts at the businesses, so it's less legwork for the counties and the cities. And that is another thought too, is in April, I can always have Art Shore with MB Mentors come, if we'd like him to help answer some of these questions too, in addition to me finding the research. I know he was eager to come today, and I said, well, let's just broach the subject here. But we can always have him come in April if, or like, otherwise we'll make sure we have those answers by April.
Good. Well, I think it's worth pursuing. Is that what you're looking for, is just,
Yep, just for now, no votes, but in April, I'll probably be coming to you for actual approval for the 4,400.
all right. All right, on to changing the verbiage for our revolving loan fund policy.
Yeah.
Brian?
Sure.
Go ahead,
So-
Brian.
Sure, so this is a relatively small, just verbiage change, but we want to make it more clear for the revolving loan fund. So Mitch had mentioned the CUPs and IUPs, and our business is working out of residential properties for that. We've had a recent request which helped to see that we needed to clarify this, that if we have a business that's operating under CUP or IUP, they're in a residential district. And if they want to grow on that residential district, that's not really the intent of our program. The intent of our program is to help move them to a commercial property, move them to an industrial property. And so the request came in, and we found it wasn't as clear as it could be that one of the ineligible uses is anything that's residentially zoned. So it's not to invest in residential property, it's just that our program doesn't cover businesses that are still in that residentially zoned area. So just making that a little bit more clear on the verbiage. So just switching out it from saying ineligible use being residential real estate to saying residentially zoned real estate. Small change, but
Small change, big impact, and I think,
Easier interpretation for staff.
exactly.
we're just looking for approval to make that a small change on the policy.
All right, I'd be looking for a motion to approve a verbiage change for a revolving loan fund.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Marketing discussion.
Yeah, so a little bit more fun here. Last time you guys had asked if we could design something for the board here that when you're out and about and you want to share about Sherburne County or Sherburne Biz, something. So we kind of developed these draft. If you want to take one and pass one down, just draft little business cards. These are homemade, which is why they feel homemade. But I wanted you to get a thought. Yeah, and ink. I wanted you to get a thought for what a business card could look like if you wanted to have something in your wallet you could pass out, or whatever other thoughts you guys might have in addition to that. These would be very easy and cheap for us to get 100, 200, and have each one of you have 10 or 20, whatever works. So I wanted to start the conversation with that and kind of see your thoughts on if you wanted to have some business cards, if you wanted to change anything on this, and kind of go from there.
I would like something digital as well. I feel like I do most of my stuff. I don't see too many people handing out business cards anymore, just, So I think if we could do something, we could either email or text or give them that QR code or something.
Like a link like more than SherburnBiz.com?
No, this is good.
Oh, but this
Just something,
digitally.
just something digital.
I see where this
Like a title
comes.
block?
I'm sorry?
Like a title block you can use with a QR code, or?
Well, or just something that I can use, send it digitally, either whether it's email or text or whatever.
I see where this comes from though, because my board asked me for this same thing. Like, it is, like, they wanted simple, like really simple on one, it's like the elevator speech that like, tell me more, here you go. And something tangible sometimes, like if you pull it out of your pocket after you've been, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot, I can go back to this and reference it. So I see where this comes from because I've had a request too.
When you all go to conferences and do meet different people, and to your point, I know when I come home from a conference, I'll pull out all the cards that I got. I'm like, oh, I need to get back to this person and not this person. And at least
Some
that
go in
way-
the trash, and some are like, this person was really interesting, I'm gonna get back to them.
At least they have another reminder of where they can go.
I think it'd be great for our office, because we do get all those off-the-wall people, and just, because we'll mention EDA, we'll say, you know, you should be checking in and following up, but to actually give them something, you know, because we do a lot of these messages. It would be nice to be able to include something, you know, an email, kind of a little snip, like, hey, here's this little, you know, graphic that you could attach to the email when I do talk to somebody. That would be nice, because then it's just, this sitting on my counter would definitely give me the opportunity to be like, oh yeah, by the way, make sure you check in with these guys, because they got a lot of resources.
And I realize this is just a mock-up, but if we do it at actual business card size, standard business card size, it's cheap to produce. Yeah, makes it real easy.
Yeah, I like it. I know I would definitely utilize it. And, you know, it's just drawing, you know, our dilemma with marketing is marketing our marketing. And this goes a long ways to driving people to the information that we're trying to get them to, so.
Do we, kind of related to this, but do we have we developed leave behinds? So if we're meeting with a business, do we have a packet for a leave behind that we've developed?
We have flyers for the revolving loan fund, we have the policy for the revolving loan fund for the homeowner rehab, and we do have a nice flyer for the business revolving loan fund. So sometimes we need that flyer.
Well, I'm just thinking of, we've got this marketing campaign, right? The billboards are starting up. We should be prepared with some sort of, it doesn't have to be extensive, but some sort of package, so that if we do get a call and a business that wants to meet, or like we're trying to meet with Lockheed, it would be nice to have a packet that's designed specifically. It's a marketing packet, you know, why move, you know, why locate your business in Sherburne County, and have that as a standard leave behind with your business card, so when we're walking into a business, we've got something that
Cities
looks
have some of that too.
something that looks professional.
Even
Yeah,
if you
I'm-
just did like rather than like a whole folder, which you could do, but that drives up your expense. Even if you just did like trifold, long and narrow, and there's a place for a business card, or it could have a small pocket in it if you wanted to put, is something to the commercial and residential real estate brokers as they're entertaining people from the city, like they have something to put in their packets that might be a bigger folio. So if it's a small but like multifunctional, like adaptable piece, depending on.
And I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel, to your point. I'm sure the cities, some of the cities have developed something, so we can just.
I think we have some
I think it could be twofold. The idea, obviously has to happen, and the staff time preparing this up front is gonna save a ton of staff time on the back end, so let's invest it up front. I believe that whatever handouts we have, I prefer the bigger portfolio, professional, stating everything that Sherburne County can offer. It serves one purpose, but I also believe the trifolds can serve another, but they don't serve both. So we're gonna have to look at both of those, but.
It can depend on your audience too. When you're trying to attract a new business, you might give
Right.
them more information than one's existing.
But if I'm having a sit down, or if I get into even an unscheduled meeting with somebody where I can promote this, and you have to remember the information that we're giving out to that person, it doesn't mean that's the person that's gonna utilize it, you know? It so often is 5 steps down, hey, I got this, call these people, is where this really works, but something I can pull out of the briefcase and look professional about the deal.
It also should have sort of your standard talking points, right? Because what you don't want to do is, you don't want to set up a meeting with, you know, a reasonably large corporation to try to get them to come into the county, and we don't have our speech prepared, right? So you're just sitting there looking at them, you know, talking over coffee. So if we have some collateral prepared, if we have our standard talking points prepared, then I think we're in good shape when a meeting comes up.
Yeah, we can easily have that ready to go. It's a draft for the April board.
I like the idea, going back to it's countywide efforts that we're taking, you know, so it's capturing, you know, you get these updates, these nice presentations from the cities and the different, you know, areas here and capturing some of those areas, because you know, Sherburne County has a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different areas that are available for them, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have to work with all the cities, get information from them, work with planning and zoning, probably have a section in there explaining that, so.
I like bothering the cities, so they know. Yeah.
They like being bothered.
It's welcome.
Yep.
All right, what else do you have on marketing, anything?
No, I think that, and then we did start getting in information from Outfront Media. So our billboard campaign did officially start on March 1st. They do have a dashboard that they sent me information yesterday on, so I want to get some training and then present the dashboard to you guys in April. But they did send over some, so I guess all of their billboards have a webcam that shoots at them so they can record what their billboards are doing. So these are images from those webcams. They're not as great as I was hoping they'd be, but it is proof that our ad is up there and is running. And I have an email out to her to try and figure out which billboards these actually are, because they're coded ones, and I have not gotten a response yet. So, but we are officially out there and started up. And again, these are the billboards that are along the corridors going into the 7-county metro and back out. This is during drive times. And again, they do have a dashboard that I'm going to be getting some training on. So in April, I'll be able to show you the dashboard that we have. It's kind of like a live dashboard where we can kind of see the impressions come in as people drive by our signs. So we're up and running and fired up. It's tricky for all of us, because I'm sure we all want to drive by the sign right when it happens, but I think it's hard to hit that just right. So I might have a better answer for you in April to say, okay, let's all hit this billboard at this time. But at this point, I don't know those. But it is officially up, and we're starting. So, and again, in April, then we'll present our website traffic numbers and see how we're doing with that.
Actually, I did probably a month or so ago, I even forget where I was at, somewhere north, but Maple Grove has a billboard campaign going outstate. And yeah, that caught my eye, so.
Does anyone ever, you know, go on Highway 10 in Ramsey, there's that, you know, vertical billboard, digital billboard that's there. You know, it does kind of the same thing, but it does a great job. I don't know if the city kind of partnered with them, because there's a lot of, you know, city postings that will occur on there, but all the local businesses, it does a really good job of, you know, as a commuter, you know, that we're out every day.
I think that's owned by the city, so we might have a hard time getting the space.
No, but I'm just saying, like, so as we're redoing our digital, you know, billboard ordinance for the county and our zoning rewrite, it's just, they are very effective tools, and that one right there catches my eye every day, and there's, you know, new businesses being promoted on that, and it really does draw you into kind of Ramsey that's behind.
Looking for a spot in Sherburne County.
It's a very effective board. It's a very effective communication as a
I noticed
commuter.
it too when I.
To go vertical rather than horizontal.
There's one in Clear Lake in the Brickyard in their lot.
Yeah.
There's one in St. Cloud on Highway 15.
So I don't know if any cities want to put one up, it'd be.
All right. Well, all good stuff. I think the marketing is gonna be huge, so.
I just noticed, Brian, I feel like we talked about it at the last meeting. Did you expand the offerings under, like you added the school districts and
Yes.
safety?
Yeah,
Thank you.
we did.
I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, and I appreciate the feedback on that. So on the Sherburne Biz site, based on the feedback from this board, we did build out a little bit more of why you'd want to live here in Sherburne County. So focusing on the school districts, focusing on the safety here. And it actually works well for content too, for SEO to grab on that. And I think, thank you for bringing that up too. I did meet with a business that, I told them, you know, we're not really looking right now, but they said they had some interesting ways of, once we get more traffic on Sherburne Biz, they have ways, and they said it's legal, because I think it's crazy, of the people that visit our Sherburne Biz website, you can track their IP addresses, and then there are ways to link that IP address with the people's email addresses. So if people visit our Sherburne Biz, then we can retarget them and send an email in a day and say, hey, we saw you're interested in Sherburne Biz, or maybe don't be that forceful and just say SherburneBiz.com. And so, yeah.
You guys do what you want.
So I'll throw that out to the board. If we start to see our traffic increase, that might be worth our time to look into some of those retargeting methods, because there's a lot of crazy stuff they can do. They can do geofencing, they can do it by industry, they can do a lot with that retargeting. So we'll just throw it out there.
All right, great.
Yeah. Yeah, do listen to you.
All right, on to announcements. Still got the floor there, Brian.
Yep.
Anything else to report?
No, I think we're tracking pretty well. One thing that doesn't usually hit the board is, you know, I try to be out there in the community to say, we are a resource to businesses and nonprofits, you know, because they're all under the business umbrella, of helping when a business wants to do a grant opportunity. I'm here to, I can offer some technical assistance, we can offer some. So there's been a few nonprofits that have reached out and are working on grant applications, so I've kind of worked with them on that, as well as some for-profit businesses. There is a grant opportunity through the Department of Agriculture right now for updating freezers and refrigerators and staging items for healthy foods. So we've let all the local grocery stores know about that. We actually do have a grocery store that's interested, so I'm going to help them out a little bit with technical assistance on that. So just know that that is running in the background, and we are a resource for businesses on the grant side.
What about, have you let the food shelves know that?
Yes, yep, absolutely. And I'm actually working with one of the food shelves on a pretty cool one. So, but since it's their grant, I don't want to say too much. Yeah, so that's good on the business side. And then I'd say on housing, it was quiet there for a little bit for our homeowner rehab loan. Wasn't getting any calls, and all of a sudden, the last week, I think I've gotten 4 or 5 different calls from different people. I think half of them were referred by banks, and then half of them just called because they found us through the website. I actually think we're pulling pretty good on AI. What is that? AIO? Instead of SEO. It's the search tools there. But when people look up rehabilitation or home programs in Sherburne County, I think our program is coming up because 2 people mentioned they found us on ChatGPT. So I've been talking with homeowners about our program. One thing that is interesting about our program, because we have the caveat that if they can qualify for the state's program first, we want them to apply. I noticed the quickest thing that drops them out of being able to qualify for that is if they have a credit score less than 620. And so our program has really been beneficial in those folks that are not qualifying. Usually it's credit score, or if they're between jobs and their income isn't just right. So
Do they have to manually put in their credit score?
for ours,
No, for the states.
yes, for the states they have to work with an approved lender, and they actually have to do a soft pull to check on that. But if they can self-report that their credit score is low and give us like a Credit Karma, something like that, we've been able to take that. So just saying that our program is helpful because it's helping people that would not qualify for other financing.
What do they want to do though? Inquiries?
Yep, so the inquiries this week, we had 2 failing roofs, 1 failing furnace, and I think somebody asking about windows. Windows is going to be trickier, but yeah. So they haven't put in formal applications yet or anything, but I think, kind of to your guys' points with permits, as spring comes and people start looking at their projects, we're going to start seeing more and more requests. So it's a very good program.
The first loans have been put on property taxes, so they'll start to get built, so we'll start getting money back in starting this year already.
Okay.
I Can I have a second?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to compliment Brian. Paid family medical leave is impacting all of us. We have an opening up in admin. Brian's been filling in as a board clerk, but he's getting 99% of his stuff done that he got before Keisha was out. But 5 months is a long time to lose a key staff member, and you need people to step up, and Brian really has stepped up to keep things moving.
Yeah, Brian.
Congratulations.
Yeah, if you notice, this was a little bit lighter this month.
Well, we don't have somebody operating the computer. That's, there's consequences to not having people in the office, so he's done a fabulous job.
Well, thank you. I start every day with, thank you, Brian.
I feel it.
So I can get a revolving loan fund to open the bar at my house after they approve it? This just keeps
Out of your
getting-
house.
This just keeps getting better.
Board approved.
If I live there, out in the township, yeah, okay. You got no competition today, Andrew.
I know. I'll go over one thing, so, because it'll be in the paper. So, I'm pretty sure everybody knows, we've run for 35 years enterprise fund out of the jail, which means we have federal contracts. And so we house roughly 500 federal inmates each year. And it's a significant contributor to the county budget. We ran the math, and between personnel costs and capital costs, it's averaged about $3.3 million per year that would normally have to be covered under the levy. So that'd be a 5-point levy increase if the enterprise fund went away, if we were no longer able to do our federal contracts. Parts of our jail are obsolete. They will not be usable in the reasonably near future. Some of it's because piping was cemented into the walls, the way the construction was done back then. Part of it is it no longer meets federal requirements for different parts that are required for housing, et cetera. So we're gonna have to do a replacement of parts of the jail. So I don't know how it'll end up showing up in the newspaper. It's not, sometimes it's called a renovation, sometimes it's called an expansion. It's neither of those, it's a replacement. It's a replacement of facilities that are not going to be usable in the future. Specifically, it's gonna be around special housing unit, which is where we put the worst of the worst, and Sallyport, and then processing area. Bringing those up to speed where they meet with their lawyers and that sort of thing. Now we have to pay for it. So it's gonna be somewhere just south of a $50 million bill to pay for. We don't wanna put it on the levy. So what we're going to the Capitol to do is to put forth a 1/4 cent sales tax. That would cover most of the debt service to be able to cover. It'd be a 1/4 cent sales tax over 20 years. The reason that I like the sales tax idea rather than on the levy is if it goes on the levy, I guarantee you a future board will find ways to spend that money. So tax will never go away. If it's a sales tax, it has a drop dead date. It can't be extended. It also has to be voted on in a general election. So the residents of the county get a vote on it as well. So, so that'll be moving forward. As a county, we're gonna have to put a pretty heavy marketing campaign on getting approval for that 1/4 cent sales tax, because it does have to be voted on. And if it gets voted down, we're still gonna do the jail, it's just gonna end up on the levy. So, so you'll see that coming out over the next several months, because it'll have to be on the 2026 ballot.
All right.
So if anyone wants a tour of the jail, we could offer that, because as Andrew said.
Or you can get your own tour by breaking the law.
Do that, but if anyone is interested, walking through, let me know.
Yeah, that is helpful usually, I know.
And it's impossible to remodel a lot of the jail, that's why it has to be replaced.
Well, I think the more information about like the safety and what have you, because like, for example, when Elk River wanted to redo the hockey arena and it went to vote the first time, it was to redo the hockey arena. The second campaign was like Together Elk River and, or whatever campaign it was, and it was a lot more informational about how it would serve more than hockey families, and it was far more successful. And so I think the education about the safety and what it means for our county and like, the more we know, the more we can help spread the word.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You know, one thing that, obviously, there's a lot of controversy around ICE right now, but most of our inmates are marshals. They're our marshal prisoners. You know, 9/11 hijacker that got caught, right? He was housed here under a federal contract, right? The individual that murdered Melissa Hortman, you know, is here under a federal contract. So it's those types of prisoners that we have. So it's, and we do have some, I mean, some of the ICE contracts fall under that, but I think it is important to be able to articulate it in such a way, one, what it means from a property tax standpoint if it doesn't pass, but two, these are people that we want off the streets. So it's an important topic, to your point.
I think people make a lot of assumptions, so anytime we can clear up misconception and just come with more information, more true information, it's.
Yeah. Are those type of people here during their trial, or?
You know, I don't remember what Joel said. They're
Usually here, at most 2 years, so it's,
I feel
we're
like
in
they'd be going to more
transitionary.
secure,
yeah, then they go to Leavenworth or wherever.
yeah, Oak Park Heights or, yeah.
All right. Yeah, good information. We'll assist, I'm sure, every way that we can on that. It's a good revenue source. Brings us to our last item, which is updates from anybody else sitting around the table that wants to talk.
You heard from me last month, I don't have any major ones.
All right, great. Well, I would just like to say, real quickly, I know that planning and zoning, a lot of their presentation was about the cooperation between EDA and them. That only works because the planning and zoning department was open-minded enough to entertain discussions with us, where historically, or, you know, in a lot of areas, you're met with some resistance. People like living in their silos, and so when you come knocking on the door, you're not always receptive. And it was just the opposite with these guys and their whole department. So, and I still say that plan and zoning is the number one factor in economic development. Having well-written zoning ordinances, common sense rules it's probably the most important thing we can do to bring businesses in or allow them to expand. If they're met with walls of resistance at plan and zoning, then the deal's done and they move on. So I appreciate the relationship you guys have continued. So with that, and planning and zoning, it's the only operation I know of where developers and builders pay them big money to make their life hell. Right? It's like, here's 10 grand, will you just really piss me off? And I said, absolutely we will. So, all right.
How it works.
With that, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn. Yes. All in favor? Thanks, everybody.